Why is it that you only see the typo or that graphic that you forgot to add after you've created your PDF or had somebody create it for you? I don't know. It's like a law of nature. But the good news is there's no need to stress because you can actually make some edits inside of a PDF, and that's what we're going to talk about. So let's get the party started. Yeah, we work so hard on creating these PDF files, whether it's a document that you're sharing or it's something that you're giving away, whatever the reason is, PDFs serve a lot of different purposes and they're really super helpful. But it's always that last minute thing where, you've just about ready to send it out, you're just about ready to do whatever with it, and you're like, oh shoot. And if you've created it, maybe you're okay going back into the source document and going in and fixing it and recreating it and going through that whole process. But if you've had somebody else create it for you, or you just don't have the time to start over and go back to the other document, it can be a very stressful moment, let's just say. I get a lot of emails and phone calls from people freaking out over this one. So I'm here to tell you that, yes, you can do some edits in PDFs. Now, let's set the bar reasonable here, okay? You're not going to rebuild your entire document after you turned it into a PDF. You really don't want to do that. But within some reason, you can add images, you can delete, you can do some text edits, which are going to be very minimal because it's not a full Word document, it's not a full document to work with, that type of thing. But you can do some stuff. And usually that's enough to get people over the hump, as it were. So that's what we're going to talk about. Basically, there's 4 different ways to do it, 4 different categories, if you want to call it that. One is to use a full PDF editor. Okay, so obviously Adobe has one. There's also third-party alternatives, and we'll talk about those. There are online tools that you can use. There's some caveats around that. You can find a bunch that are free. How much you can do in the free version, it depends. Or some of them will then let you, either pay per or you have to buy a subscription, so we'll talk about that. There are tools that you probably already have or have access to that you can do some editing in, which is good news. And then there's also browser extensions, which we will get into. But first, I want to clear up something because there is a lot of confusion around this. So people throw around the term, PDF and Acrobat. And for the most part, when people are talking about PDFs, they understand that it's a certain type of file. When they say that, that you can use Acrobat to read it or look at it, yes, okay, but the problem is there's 2 pieces, okay? So there is the paid editor creator from Acrobat, from Adobe, okay, and then there's the reader, which is really just a viewer. The viewer is free. I've noticed, and we'll take a look at, that they've changed their marketing a little bit about the reader, and they imply that you could do editing. We're going to talk about what that means in a minute. But really, if you're going to do a lot of PDFs, you're going to want to at least consider buying one of the true PDF editors. You create, you can edit, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can combine them, you can merge, it's pretty powerful when you buy those tools. Like I said, the one from Adobe, of course, that is the gold standard, but there are alternatives if you don't want to get into the whole Adobe subscription thing, or you've had problems with Adobe or whatever. No judgment, I'm kind of off of Adobe myself these days. So, let's start partying. First, I do want to say hello, Lyle, Sammy, Callie. Thanks for cruising by. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in, and I'm more than happy to get into them. So let's start with Adobe is not Adobe is not Adobe. All right, let me bring this up. So the reader is what most people have, right? A lot of companies even install that for free, either on your computer or, if you're working for a company, they'll install it for you. But it's super easy to go get. You just go in and you do a search for Adobe Reader or Adobe Viewer, and you'll get it. Now, the cute little thing that I noticed when I went to look at this, because they're always changing the websites and all that, so I always go back and look. So this is what it looks like right now. As of when I'm recording this is their current presentation for it, right? And they do, at least down here, address the. Oh, wait, let me bring this up. You can't see it out in that cut there. Okay, so they do address the fact, that there's a difference between the Adobe Reader and Acrobat Pro. Okay, and it's cute because here you'll notice that they've got a little X next to edit text and images into PDF, which, by the way, is true. Okay, and in Pro you can do all of the things. However, you can also see that here it says, they throw the words edit and convert. Okay. Now they're talking about Pro here, and so this is what we. So I design software for a living, right? This is what we call dark pattern. Okay, they throw these words in here. The detail is here, but the other thing that I'm really angry about is this, because your eye is drawn to this button. So when you're looking at this and you're in a rush and you need to get the reader, you can go in and you're going to go, okay, I'm going to try the freebie here, and you're going to click on this. But this is actually the button you need to click on in order to get the free reader. So you can click on that. There's a couple of different steps. I just downloaded it, so it may not let me, but let's see. Come on, load. Okay, so this is the other thing that makes me a little angry, so I'm going to point it out to you. When I first came in here, these are pre-selected. Always watch when you're going to go and install things, because they like to play these games, right? So if you don't pay attention, you're going to end up with McAfee crap that you don't need, and also the extension, which you don't need. So make sure you do turn all these off before you continue through the process. But that's one of those things that kind of ticks me off a little bit. Okay, and then over here again, they're still pushing. They're pushing really hard, and you're going to see just how hard in a few minutes. But they're really pushing you to pay for the Adobe Pro, which is not necessarily a bad thing as long as you are aware that that's what you're clicking on. Again, you want to make sure you're very clear about the fact that you want the reader. Come on. Okay, yeah, so it's not doing what it did before because I've already downloaded it. Because it actually popped up a little thing before when I was doing it saying that I could use this to edit my PDFs, which is not true. So we'll address that. I'm just looking to see if they have it anyplace else. No. Okay, yeah. I'm sure it was a mistake. I'm sure. Okay. So here we go. So you're going to get that down. So that's the first piece is that, okay, so there's the reader, and that's what most people have, and that's all you need if you want to view a PDF file, or if you want your clients to do it, you can go ahead and do it. You can tell them they can have that for free, okay? So if you want to do the full editing and you want to stay in the Adobe world, what you're looking for is the Adobe Acrobat Pro. You used to be able to buy this as a standalone product. You cannot evidently do that anymore. But this is, this is the powerhouse. This is where you can do all the things, right? You can edit, you can combine them. You can do a little bit more editing on it. So this is not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, if you're going to create a lot of them, you do get a 7-day trial. So if you just need to do a few of these, you can just go ahead and sign up for the free trial. However, be careful, because with Adobe, if you want to use the free trial, they still want your credit card. So what I recommend doing is going ahead, do it, get the download, and then go in immediately after you get it installed and you've started your 7-day free and cancel, because this is a game they're playing. So yeah, it's such fun. So does it say what the pricing is? That's another thing that they play games with. Let's see if I can get the price for you. The site's a little slow. You would expect better. So, okay, yeah, so there's two versions of it. There's standard and there's pro, even though they've only talked about pro up to this point. So it's either $15 a month or $13 a month. At that point, you might as well go for pro, because you can do things like compare and turn scan documents in and all that. So it is worth it. If you're going to do this, you might as well go for it, because it does work out a little bit better for you. So there's that. Now, there's other tools out there that you can use. Let me bring that up. I'm going to be switching computers a lot because it's just more efficient when I'm trying to show you these things. She says optimistically. Of course, I've got a ton of stuff open. Okay, so the other tool that I've been using and I've had a lot of my customers using lately is a tool called Nitro. And it should be opening up here. No, don't make decisions for me right now. Thank you very much. So, Nitro is it's an editor tool also. Hello, I should be here. Oh, hey, that worked. What do you know? So, you can do pretty much everything that Pro can do. The nice thing is that it's a one-time purchase, so you're not having to deal with all of the monthly fees that Adobe likes to shove at you right now. And we can get into that a little bit more in a second. Let me just... Got stuff all over the place. Okay. And let me get the price for you for Nitro. So that is here. Oh, I'm not even showing you the right thing. My apologies. It's this one. There we go. They have, individual, they have business. So yeah, it's a one-time fee of $143. They got a sale going right now, but that is a one-time fee. Like, you don't ever have to, update or any of that kind of stuff again. It's just all to go. And if you have a company and you want, like, multiple versions, then of course, they've got you for free, and then they've got, some packages available. So again, it's, one time 143, but then if you have a team or you have an enterprise, then, they'll have the negotiation discussion with you about pricing. So you do have options there. So those are the ways that you're going to want to go if you're looking to do some hardcore stuff. That said, there are a lot of online options. And what cracks me up is that even Adobe's gotten into the game. So there are a lot of tools out there. If you go and you search for online PDF editing, you'll find a bunch, and I'll show you a couple. But it cracked me up that Adobe is actually in on it. This is another place where, they say, edit PDFs with comments. Okay? What they're really saying is you can do some basic things to a PDF using this tool, and some of the other ones I'm going to show you that are online, for free, at the free level, okay? You can really add some text, or you can maybe, draw on it. Like if you're editing, you could like highlight stuff. You can add sticky notes to it, but you're not doing real editing. So even though they say edit PDFs, that's not really what you're doing with these kind of tools at the free level. Cracked me up that they're actually doing this, because for years they were so against this stuff. So let me go back to this. So this is one that I've used on and off, small PDF. Now you'll see down here that they're trying to get you to install the extension. Let me remove my face here so that you can see that. So down here, when you've come to small PDF, they're trying to get you to install the extension. I'm just going to say no now, and I'll explain why later. But basically, it's really simple. Like, you can choose the file from your desktop, or you can just drag a file here and go ahead and use it. There's another one that I've heard a lot of people like to use called PDF Escape. Again, this is presented when you go to it as a way to edit your documents, but again, if you really look, it lets you insert, it lets you annotate, so you can mark it up, right? Or you can remove, you can delete pages, rearrange pages, that kind of thing. It's not truly giving you editing capability until you go and pay for it. So just be aware. All right, let me just check in and see what kind of comments you've got here. Oh boy, oh boy. I literally, okay, yeah, so see, that's why I wanted to have that part of the discussion up front, Lyle, because that's the reality. Most people, when they start to have this conversation with me, they don't realize that there's two different versions. They like to present it as an umbrella, with two factions underneath it, but yeah, so there's the free viewer, which everybody can have for free, and it's really just for viewing it. You can also edit it. It's not edit it, I'm sorry. You can sign documents with it. It's a little wonky, but it can be done. And you can add some like notes and that kind of stuff, but thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because that's exactly why I had that conversation with you up front. Because that's a thing. Adobe Acrobat annoys me sometimes. Yeah, me too. So yes, I told you the price, Sammy, right? So hopefully you saw that. Yes, the stream has started, Callie. The dark, so Lyle got caught with the dark patterns. Yeah, it's a nasty business that goes on out there. Yeah. Yeah, really, and the thing is that they're getting you in a moment when you're trying to rush. Usually, somebody's trying to download these things, it's because they've got something they needed to do yesterday and they're trying to get it done. And so that's why they do this stuff, because you're scanning, you're not reading everything on the page, and that's what they're counting on, right? Because they know how to get your attention. They know that if you, present a button this way or that way, you're more likely to click on this one. And it's sleazy, and it's yeah. It's an argument that we have a lot when we're designing software, because sometimes team members get very excited about it as a way to improve whatever, algorithm or whatever they're looking to improve. But to me, to do that at the cost of a user is absolutely wrong. There's just no gray area on that. So, yes, okay. Yeah, you can get it for 50. You can get the Adobe version for about $15 a month if you sign up for a year. If you don't, I think it's like $23 a month. So yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, so that's why I went with Nitro. There's a couple other ones out there if you don't like Nitro. The nice thing, like all the third-party ones, you can get a free trial, see if it works for you. Because a lot of software, it's about whether or not it clicks with your brain, whether or not it plugs into the way you expect to work. And Nitro just did it for me, so that's why I went ahead with that one. But yeah, for me, most of my software, I want to pay for it and be done. Especially something like a PDF editor, because I don't do it every day, right? So it annoys, the idea of having to pay for it every month annoys me. It's like, I want to buy it and I just want to use it for however long I need to use it. There are free upgrades that I've gotten from Nitro, but then there's also been paid upgrades offered to me that I've not taken because I'm perfectly content with the version that I've got. So there's that. So yeah, okay. So actually, what a lovely segue. Thank you, Lau. You do that for me a lot. And I swear, folks, we do not set this up in advance. But obviously, his brain and mine work very well together. Yeah, so there are ways to make edits to these things with the tools that you have, okay? And this is one of them for people who are very comfortable with the graphic tools, right? You can convert it from a PDF to a PNG. Now, you're going to have to do that for every page, which may or may not be a pain point for you. But it is something that you can do if you are comfortable in those kind of tools. Some of them, you can open the PDF inside of it, but again, it's only going to open to like the first page. So the other ones that you can do this one with, hang on one sec, are things like Microsoft Word, right? Or Google Docs, which I will show you in a sec. Now, the one warning that I have for you about that, particularly with Word, a lot of times the people that I get who are upset and freaking out are the people who have opened the PDF in Word and all the formatting went to hell. That's pretty standard when you do it in Word. There's reasons why, but a lot of times people are opening something that was created in like PowerPoint or something, or a non-Word tool, and so when Word gets it, it just tries to do its best with it, which is never what it was supposed to be. There is a way around that, which I will show you in a second, but there's that. I will say that Google does a pretty darn good job with it. Now let's see if I still have this open. Okay, so let me show you this. Hey, I got it. No, I didn't. That's a lie. Come back. There we go. Okay, so this is one that I put out on my Google Drive. This is a giveaway I gave away sometime last year. Okay, so when you open it on Google, there are plugins, right? Connected apps that they call them in Google's world that work with these different tools. Lumen PDF is one that has some pretty good success, but what I wanted to show you is just opening up in Google Docs. Now, this is not a terribly complex document that I created, but I did create it in LibreOffice, which is a Microsoft Office adjacent type of tool, but it did a pretty good job of just getting the text and the fonts and the positioning. It's all pretty good. You know, the pages broke a little funny. You know, there's some stuff that went a little wonky, but overall it's not terrible. And the nice thing is that once you get it in here, you can literally just come in and type. Right? Or if I wanted to remove this image, or if I wanted to resize this image, because my God, it's kind of big. Right? So this is actually a pretty good alternative for people. You just do want to go through and pay a lot of attention because things do go wonky. So where was that one that went wonky on us? So like this here, this doesn't really need to be here. This was the footer probably that I did in the PDF file. Whoops. Okay, let's not get carried away. There we go. So I can just delete that, but there was something else down here. Okay, so yeah, we lost a letter here, or the letter got removed from the rest of the word. So here we go. Oh, so here's a little trick. If you go back in a couple and then delete, then you get like all the formatting, the font and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty good. Okay, again, some weird formatting, you know, but again, not hard to fix, right? All I have to do is delete it and do a little wonking around, and there we go. So you have a lot of functionality in this that is really easy, and it's free because it's Google Docs. So, you know, Life doesn't get much better than that. So for a lot of people, this is what I point them to because it's the most straightforward. It will not work every single time. There's just some situations where it's not. The more document-like the PDF is, the better your chances that something like this is going to work. If, however, you are dealing with something that was created in a graphics program or in some of the slide programs, right? PowerPoint or Keynote or whatever, sometimes those don't quite translate as well. But again, it's worth a try, certainly, because you can't beat the price of Google Docs. So that's another way to go. It's pretty easy. I said you just need to be pretty careful. You need to pay attention, right? There's all these little things that are floating around that carried over that didn't translate well. So there would be a little extra wonking around, but I can go in like, oh my God, what was I doing? What was I thinking here? That should have been this, So for those kinds of edits, you're good to go when it comes to something like this. And it's fairly intuitive. You've got your basic, controls up here. So even if you've never worked in Google Docs before, it's really not hard to get up to speed because it kind of follows the same patterns that you see in Outlook and Word and all the other places, right? Okay. I have to check my list here because otherwise I lose track. Okay, so that's tools you use. So now let's talk about the browser extensions. Okay, the short answer is don't, because most of the time, the browser extensions that you're going to see, for example, like the one I showed you when we took the first look at, keep switching the wrong one, at Small PDF. And I'm not picking on them. This is just an example. They put it right up front here. Adobe also was doing that to me when I was first testing. All the extension does is bring you to this, or makes it easier, I guess, for you to upload your document into this. The reason I say don't is because that's not giving you a lot of value, and every browser extension that you load into your browser is going to slow your browser down. Also, it is technically a security risk, right? Because it's another way for something to get into your browser. So, I'm not saying never use browser extensions, but if you're going to add one, make sure it's adding a lot of value for you. For me, as a shortcut to uploading the file, which I could very easily do just by going to their website, it's okay. I'll just go to their website. That's fine by me. Your mileage may vary. I'm just telling you how I look at these things. So that's why, for me, the browser extensions are not so good. Also, let me see, where's the one? Oh, I've got so many tabs open, and this is what happens when I don't follow my pattern. But hey, why follow a pattern? All right, let's go. I keep doing this wrong. What is wrong with my brain? Okay. So here's just an example of one for a Chrome browser. It also works on Google Docs. But you'll see that the reviews are not good. So if you're going to consider it, do go and take a look at the reviews and get a feel for whether or not it's worth installing. Only 40 people have reviewed it, and it's only got 3 stars out of 103 downloads or installs. To me, that's a warning sign. That means, don't install this one. It's not very good. The Luma, let me see if I can still get back to that for you. So let's go back to this. Hey, you got it right that first time. So the Lumen PDF is pretty much like the other free tools. Yes, you can do stuff. I already did this. Why is it still asking me? Fine, we'll go through the process again. Hang on, I just gotta let it authorize its little heart out. Okay. All right, so right away, because it's free, they're honking on you to go ahead and do it. And so really with this tool, it's not free, okay? You get a free trial if you want to go that route. But then they want to honk you for payments again. So it's like, I don't really think so. But you can just go ahead and say, not now. But again, there's another dark pattern, right? That button almost looked like it wasn't available. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. So, you can get a few more features if you go in here, but otherwise it's pretty limited. Now, again, when you go to edit, it's really not going to let you edit, right? It's going to let you add text, right? You can take a box here and you can say, right, the traditional. But to get in here and actually to edit, or like to come down here and edit anything, you're going to have to go either with the free trial for the Pro one, or you're going to have to use one of the other alternatives, because they're not going to let you do that kind of stuff. You can probably, yeah. So yeah, you can say, you know, you can draw on it, you can make comments on it. So it's not that it's completely useless at all, but it is limited because it's free, and they, you know, they spend money on doing this kind of stuff. So as soon as you start to try to actually get it into what you as a normal person would consider editing, you're going to start getting hit with the, oh no, I'm sorry, you need to pay us for that. Which is not a bad thing. I firmly believe in supporting your devs, but I also think that, you know, if you're going to present something as an editing tool, you should be more upfront about what that means at the free level. Well, yes, this is true. You know, nothing is truly free, right? If you're going to use the Google stuff, which is free, you are giving them your data. Absolutely. That's a good point. I'm glad this is helpful, Callie. I try. I don't always succeed, but I do try. Mainly because there's just so many versions of this, and there's so many options, and not everybody even knows that the options are available. So that's why I figured it was a good conversation to have. All right, so the other things that you can do when you get into more of a paid type of version is you can do things like password protect, right? So if you want to restrict access to a PDF file, you can set a password. Now, here's the trick, okay? If you're going to password protect your file, you're going to send it to whoever, right? Or let them download it or whatever, but you're going to give them the password separately, okay? Don't put the password in the file where you're giving them the document, because it just makes it easier for them to send it out. This is your basic level of password protection. There are more complicated ones where, like, you can tie it to somebody's email address, or you can limit the number of times it could be open. Like, there's some other checks that you get in, but those start to get into like third-party services that you can tap into. So at a basic level, you know, it just gives some basic control over it, you know, for people who, you know, you want them to have it, but maybe you don't want them to mess with it. You want to encourage them not to share it, hence the password protection kind of thing. All right. I don't know if it's interesting or not, but I guess we could take a look at actually making an edit in a real tool. Let me get my Nitro running, just to show you what it looks like. Open. I don't know what the boy is barking about. He's very excited about something. Also, he knows I'm doing something. It's pretty much the only time he barks is when I'm on a conference call or when I'm streaming. But, you know, that's the way life goes. Okay. Am I going to get it right this time? I did. Okay, so you get a choice when you start using it of dark white or nitro orange. Of course, all things dark mode. And it didn't go dark mode. Okay, fine. I actually have the paid version for it. This is the free trial that I've loaded here, so it's 14 days. So again, you know, when you come in here, you're going to see what level of... Okay, why are you not scrolling? I guess it's not touch sensitive, huh? Okay, there we go. So the formatting, the same. This, you know, looks more like a footer here than it did in Google Docs. Again, there's a little weirdness on this one, but it's not as noticeable as it was on Google Docs. Let's see what else we got. Let's just take a general look and see. So this kept more of the, you know, header, footer, browser kind of stuff. Okay, and then you've got all kinds of options up here. Okay, so, you know, you can add text like you saw in the free one. So if you're like, oh, you know, you needed to add a little sentence here that you know, forgot, you know, you can say, whatever, put your text here. Which is handy. Now, you do want to, you know, if you're doing this for real, I'm just doing this quick and dirty, you're going to want to come up here and you're going to want to pick a font, you know, ideally the same font or one that matches. You're going to want to, you know, get the font size right. Usually you can adjust the positioning of these, although because I'm rushing, I'm not doing too well with that. You know, you can do the signature stuff with this. You can turn, you know, files or things from your scanner or from your clipboard into PDFs. You can combine PDFs. So if you have multiple PDF files and you need to make one big file out of them, you can do that. You can export it to Word and Excel. That's the piece. I knew I was forgetting something. We'll get back to that. You can highlight. You can insert stuff. All these things are here for you to play with. Again, there's more of the there's a lot of export options in this, which is very handy sometimes, especially if you're going to do a big edit on it, because you're not going to want to do a whole lot here. Let's see here. So is this the one? Every time I do this, I have to remember how I do it. Copy the formatting, you can highlight, you can undo, you can add a note to it, you can replace the text. Let's try that. Oh, it's over here. Oh, so this is adding the notes. So this is if you're editing a document somebody else is going to update. For review. I always have to look for it. I should have looked for it before. Oh, you can build forms in these kinds of things. That's the other cool tool. Let's get out of this. No. Right, you can switch out the images. You can crop documents. Actually, let's try that. Let's see if I can go up and do the image adjustment. I've got this tool selected now. Hand. There we go. That's what I wanted. It's just a matter of getting used to whichever one you pick. Come on. So I should be able to come in here and adjust the image size. They've changed it. This is not the same layout that I have in the paid one. I guess it's time for me to update the other one. Oh well. You'll have to take my word for it. I'm not finding it at the moment, and I don't want to waste your time. But it is in here. You can get in here. You can do full edits. When you're editing text in one of these things, the piece that, I don't know why that keeps triggering, the piece that kind of freaks everybody out at first is the fact that, oh here, duh, edit, I'll bet that's what I wanted. Yeah, there we go. See, it helps if you pay attention. So when you edit in one of these, it doesn't always do the wrapping the way that you're used to if you're in some sort of a Word document. So some of them, like this one here, probably because of the tool I used to create it, which was an actual Word tool, it's doing it as a block. But a lot of times when you're editing one of these, especially if it's something that you are editing from a tool that was created in something like a graphics tool, or if it was created in something like you know, in like PowerPoint or something like that, basically anything that's not a traditional like document generator, you're going to end up only being able to edit one row at a time. And if you need to add text that extends past that one line, it's not going to wrap for you. So like here, let's try, we'll try adding an extra line here, because the fact that this is showing me a block, yes, you don't really have to keep showing me this. That's fine, thank you. It's going to be limited as far as how much we can put in here. So so you see what's going to happen is, as I keep going, right, it's not pushing the rest down because it's treating each piece as a discrete block. So you're going to have to be selective about what you edit, and you're going to just have to accept the fact that you are limited, right? So if you want to like change a word, you're good. If you want to fix a typo, you're good. Like with this one, you could add characters to the end of this and still be good because you have that space. But when you get to something, you know, that's, you know, if you try to add another paragraph between two, well, now you're getting into something really complicated. And some of them will let you do some moving of blocks, but some of them don't. See, like this is actually moving the outline of it. Let's see if I can delete that. So there's a lot of jerking around you need to do, and sometimes you have to, because sometimes you don't have access. See, this is all these different layers that it's part of the code, but it's not a part of the visual document. So yes, like I could, you know, I could take a word out, but then I'm going to end up with a funny line. So you're going to have to think about it. And there is a point where you're just beating yourself up if you try to make a whole bunch of changes in it, because it's just not really designed for that, right? This kind of functionality is there just to help you through like a particular moment of, oh shit, that typo needs to be fixed, right? But you're not going to want to go in there and completely redo the document, which frankly somebody tried to get me to do last week, and I'm like, you know what, at that point I usually just go and either retype it depending on how long it is, or I go and do something else, which I will show you now. We can come back to this if you have questions, but I just want to show you one other thing, which is super helpful. And when you run into those scenarios where like it's just more than you want to do inside of a document, it makes a big difference. And that is, I have to relabel these better. Hey, I got it right. So in something like small PDF, you don't really need the title. You have these other options, right? And you can do a certain number of them for free, and I'll show you just what that looks like because it's actually behind here. But sometimes your best option, if you don't have the source document and you need to edit it, is to go ahead and do one of these conversions. Convert the PDF to Word, convert it to Excel, whatever it is that you're going to want to work with it as, you can go ahead and export it. When you need to do bigger edits, right? If you're doing more than just changing a word, adding a link, adding a little, image, like maybe you forgot to put your logo on one of the pages, that's the way to go. When it starts to get to the point where like it's taking you more time to go in and make the changes in the PDF because you're having to be super creative about working around it, that's the point usually where I pull the plug and I'm like, you know what? It's just easier at this point to rebuild it than it is to go in and try to get all these things right. It's, when they want to add, 2 paragraphs between paragraphs, it's like, okay, that's not the thing that you're going to want to do inside the PDF. So that's when you're going to want to go to one of these tools. Now, again, like you saw in Nitro, in Adobe Pro, you can do all those kinds of things. Those are full functioning tools that you can buy either as a subscription or one-time purchase that will let you take a PDF in and export it in a bunch of different formats. If you don't want or don't have the ability to get your hands on those kind of things, these online tools do a pretty good job of it. And so I did one here. Let me show you. I didn't want you to wait because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take. But it did actually go ahead and it took that same document that we've been looking at and it turned it into a Word doc. Let's see if it's going to let me download. Oh, you can actually send somebody the link. That's new. Let me see if it lets me download. It may or may not because I've been mucking around in this today. But you can download it and then you can open it in whatever. Yeah, it's not happy with me because I did it already once and it's timed out. But the idea is that you just download it and then you can open it in whatever tool. Now, when it says that, you're doing it in Word, if you don't have access to Microsoft Office, most of the time that file format is something that you can open in other document editors like that. So for example, I use LibreOffice instead of Microsoft Office, free. So you're going to want to, so you don't not do this because you don't have Word, right? Or you don't have PowerPoint or whatever. As long as you have a tool that will open that file format, you should be good to go. Because the reality is anyway that it's going to be maybe a little wonky. It may look a little funny. Let me show you. So I did open it in LibreOffice, and actually I was surprised. It looked better than I expected. But you can, these tools are not touch friendly. So again, I exported the PDF, and now if I type, right, I can go ahead and I can add, which you can't really do well in a PDF editor of any sort. But again, just like we saw before, there's going to be things that are a little wonky, so you're going to want to keep a close eye on all the little details as you go through it. I'm sure, yeah, see, this one is messed up again. But it's a lifesaver when it comes to needing to do big edits in a document that you only have in PDF format. Now, let's just get this out there. You should only do this in PDFs that you have the rights to, okay? Don't use this to steal other people's stuff, okay? Let's be good here. But like, so for example, I had a client, they were going to repurpose something from a previous event that they were having, but the person who had created it for them, they'd hired a graphic designer or somebody to create the document for them. They didn't think at that time, and it was like 2 or 3 years ago, to get that source document from that person, which you should always do, by the way. When you hire somebody to do something for you, always get the source materials, and make sure that's covered up front, because sometimes they charge extra for it, which is fine. But so that's all they had. So I was able to take the existing materials that they had. We did this process. and we went in and we changed a couple of things that needed to be, like the location, the date and time, that kind of thing, and then sent it back out, that way. And I felt okay about that because they did pay for it and it was very minimal. So, sometimes it's a little gray area. But it is definitely, let's keep our karmas clean here. Only do it for things that you really should be doing it for. And they're trying to ramp up and, everybody's trying to get back in business here. And they were hoping that they could do this event, but they weren't sure because they weren't sure what the rules were going to be with everything that's going on. So, there's a lot of extenuating circumstances right now, but I was able to do it. It was going to take her a lot of time because there were a lot of graphic elements in it, but we didn't touch any of those because there were just text blocks and there were like 3 changes that needed to be made. And so that's what we did. Yes, I have this silly idea that we shouldn't steal. I know, I'm so antiquated when it comes to these things. But yeah, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, there is a point and there is a great purpose to having these PDF editor tools, right? And they're super helpful. If you do a lot of work with them, it is definitely worth considering making that investment. But, there is definitely a limit to how much you're going to want to do in it. And so that was another conversation I had with someone because they handed me this, I think it was 60-page PDF. And it was horrendous, but they basically needed about 50 to 80% changes on every single page. And I was like, yeah, no, time out. We're not doing that in a PDF editor. That is way too much. So they're still looking around to see if they can find the original source document. I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to be going through one of these export processes with them and do it that way because it's just the better way to go. What is this? Whenever Lori tries to rearrange the block, she should show Walt Dixon. Well, there's that too, but that's, you can do a little bit. You just don't want to do a whole lot if you're not super comfortable with it. Hey, Jason, how you doing? So, I mean, unless you have any specific questions about how to do the editing, I just wanted to kind of let you know what your options are. And just to refresh, right? So there are, the PDF editing tools, which is Adobe Pro or a third-party alternative. I use Nitro, but if you do a search, you'll find a whole bunch of them. Most of them have some sort of free trial. I recommend that you try a couple because, like I said, they changed the UI on me because, that's what they do. So the version I have of Nitro is probably 2 or 3 years old at this point, and obviously they've updated their UI. So it's just a matter of getting a user interface that makes sense to you so that when you go in to edit things, you don't have to fight with it a whole lot. So that's one way to go. Another is these online tools. So actually, I did want to mention, so there's a couple of things to keep an eye on if you're going to use the third-party tools. There's a lot of good ones out there, but most of them limit you into how much editing you can do. So either by file size or the number of pages that you can make edits on, that type of thing. It's not unreasonable. You do want to keep an eye out if you're using an online tool. Read it carefully because some of them will let you do a lot, but then they're going to watermark every page with their logo on it. Now, that may or may not be okay with you, but be aware of it. You don't want to spend 3 hours working on something and then realize that it's useless because it's full of somebody else's logo. So keep that in mind. Most of the truly useful editing tools in anything that you're getting for free, you're going to have to upgrade or pay for. Some of them you can do it by the document. Some of it you can do it, like a 1-month subscription. So that's the other thing. To be fair about Adobe, yes, they're basically all on a subscription model, which has made me a little cranky. But it is possible to go in and pay for 1 month and do what you want. What I tell people to do is save up, if you can, several projects that you can knock off that month, and pay for it. You will pay a little bit more than the advertised price if you're not signing up for a year, but sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you need to get in there and use whatever tool for, a couple of days, couple of weeks. And so that is the one sort of benefit to it. I'm sorry, I'm reaching there. I'm trying to find the silver lining for you. So yeah, that's it. Oh, okay. And some of the other ones that I've seen with the online free tools will put ads in your document. So again, nothing, just like Lyle said before, right? If you're going to use the Google solution, which I will say works really well for a lot of document types, in particular the PDFs, even there, it's not truly free, right? They're getting all of your data from you for that, but it does work really well. and they're not putting things into your document. They're just watching what you're doing and keeping the numbers for themselves. They're not reporting on you. They're reporting in the bigger scheme of things. So if there's something in particular you want to see, I'm happy to show you, but I just kind of wanted to let you know what your different options are. There's certainly no harm in trying them. I just will say that you do also, depending on your document and your environment and your company, you do want to be aware of security issues. So like if you've got a document that has a lot of important information that you don't want getting out, you might want to go ahead and get one of the tools and do it on your desktop, even to just do it with a free trial rather than uploading it to somebody else's server, because I'm not saying that anybody is out there looking to do anything, but you also don't know how good their security is. So keep that in mind if you've got anything secure in your document, tax forms, that kind of thing. Okay? I think that is everything I have for you. If you do have any questions, if you want me to cover anything in more detail, if you'd like to have me go through and do a full edit on something, I'm more than happy to do that. Just reach out and let me know. Go to yourtechcoach.net. There's a form there. You can let me know what you want me to cover, and I'm happy to cover that in a future show. Or if you have a particular question, you can let me know there. All I ask is that you let me know how to get back in touch with you so that I can give you the answer. Otherwise, all I can do is cover it in a show in the future. Okay? All right, everybody. Thank you all for cruising by. It's so nice to have people to talk to, other than the dog, who is very chatty tonight, as he tends to be. He knows I'm busy. But yeah, so you do have options. It is possible to do some editing. Just keep your expectations realistic, and you'll be fine. And it's the kind of thing that, you try it. If it doesn't work, then you try something else. It's not the end of the world. Always do your edits in a copy of the document, not the original. And that way, if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter, right? It's not the end of the world. Yeah, Murphy is really chatty. He's been quiet pretty much all day, except I had a 2.5-hour conference call that he sang through. And now, evidently, he's singing again. I don't know why. I'll go out there, I'll ask him why, and he won't tell me because he keeps secrets. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you have a good evening, and I will see you soon. I am here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I bring a different topic, but you're always welcome to come and ask other questions. Thank you for coming and partying. I'll see you soon. Bye.